It's up to you. Do you want to move over there? And
all right, welcome everybody to the October meeting of the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee. I see so many people here. This is fantastic. Let's see. Meeting is called to order. We can do some introductions, I think, because we have new people, or at least one new person, and people who don't all know each other. So could everyone just very briefly share your name, pronouns, and what brings you to this meeting? So my name's Veronica Pillar, they, them pronouns. I'm a county legislator and the chair of this meeting. And I'll pass it to Dina. And could you pass it to somebody because Zoom windows are not in consistent order?
I'm Dina Badner, she, her pronouns. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of Department of Social Services, and I will pass it to Rachel.
Hello, Rachel Graham. I'm an employee at the County Clerk's Office and Vice Chair of WDIC, also a member of Team Jedi. And what brings me to this meeting is I sit on this committee. And I'm going to pass it to Jennifer.
no.
Hi, everybody. Jen Micah, she, her pronouns. I work at Cornell and I'm a member of this committee. And I will pass it to Nick.
I don't know why I knew you would pass it to me, Jen. My name is Nick Bennett. My pronouns are he, him. I work at Ithaca College, formerly, very recently worked at the county. And I am on this committee. And I will pass it to Kate.
Thanks, Nick. Kate Shanks Booth, Director of Tompkins County Youth Services, she, her pronouns, and I serve as a member of the committee. And I will pass it to Larry.
Larry Roberts, he, him pronouns. I'm a founding member of the WDIC, and for some reason I'm still on the committee, even though I've not been to meetings for a while. So I'm gonna start coming back. And I will pick Ken.
Good afternoon. I'm Ken Clark, Director of the Office of Human Rights, and I have been a member of this committee for now almost 6 years. And let's see, who do I pass it on to? Back to Veronica?
I already went, but...
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw Nicholas. I'll pass it on to him. Sorry about that.
Hello, my name is Nicholas. I am a new public health graduate fellow with Tompkins County Health Department. I work with the environmental health office, and I just joined the committee, and I'm here to learn more and get started on what we do. Very excited.
I can do it next. I'm Annie Corman, Tompkins County Legislator, and I'm on this committee and proud to have been on this committee for almost 6 years now. And I'll pass it to Chris, who's here in the chambers also.
Hi, I'm Chris Spahn. I am the Director of the Tompkins County Workforce Development Department, and he, him are my pronouns.
Oh, I forgot to say my pronouns, she, her.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Did anyone not get to introduce themselves?
Lisa.
Oh, Lisa.
I'm Lisa Holmes, County Administrator, she, her pronouns, and I'm also longtime, probably 20+ member of this committee, 20+ year. Nice to see everybody.
Amazing. WDIC is only about 20 years old, right? Maybe slightly more.
It was 2005.
Yeah.
Okay, slightly less, almost there. All right, thanks, everybody. Next, changes to the agenda. I just have one thing. Lisa, are you still willing to give a little strategic plan, climate survey plans update at some point?
Sure.
All right. Do you have a preference of when?
No preference.
All right. Let's put you in as if you were item C in reports or updates. Anyone else have changes to the agenda? If no, moving right along. Chair's report, new thing. I just had some things to say that I don't know where else it would go. First, an apology. Last meeting, a member of the public back in August spoke at this meeting and defamed one of our valued employees. I should have shut that down immediately, but I got caught by surprise and hung up on technicalities, and I did not intervene, which was wrong. So I'd like to apologize to that employee that I won't name because that's not helpful in this situation, and to anyone else who felt because of that, like county leadership might not have their back. It is important to the county legislature, I think all of us, to support our employees and protect them and you from public vulnerability that is not, that is beyond standard job duties. So I apologize for falling short there and will not let it happen again. Second, we already introduced ourselves, but I'd like to say this is the first meeting since I've been here that we have had all seats on this committee full of people. Even if not, I think most, but not all people are here today. So congratulations to us. We also, speaking of people, finally have a new Chief Equity and Diversity Officer. She's been on board for a while at this point, but not since last meeting. Her name's Charlene Holmes. We're very happy to have her. I think she is planning to come to this meeting, but later she had a conflict with unfortunately, the bulk of it. But we're really happy about that. And then couple things that happened recently. One, on the topic of workforce, Annie and I went to a breakfast event with the Blue Collar Union last month. And that was just, I want to thank you, Annie, and thank Bill, the union president, for inviting us there. That was an opportunity that I know, I don't take enough to engage with parts of our workforce, especially who you might notice are underrepresented on this committee. So really appreciate that and look forward to more connections there. And Annie, did you want to add anything about that?
Sure. I also thank Bill Slagler, the president of the CSEA here at the county, for inviting us to that. And that actually stemmed from going to the county picnic. So I always encourage, legislators and all staff to go to the picnics and to talk with each other's. And a lot of times it's those in between conversations that we have, which are difficult or are almost impossible on Zoom, but it's those face-to-face times that really help out. And Veronica and I heard some really great feedback that just showing up, to be there and break bread with folks, break pancakes, with the folks, they really appreciated that. And they also, Bill had asked around to see, because at that point we weren't sure if we had an opening on the committee, and he asked around quite a few people in the blue collar if anybody wanted to join the committee, but I see we're full now. But with people's permission, I was thinking to ask that person if they would like to come. They won't be a voting member, but just to come and join us, to participate and contribute if they want to. So are folks okay with that? Okay, thank you.
Awesome. And thank you, Annie. And yes, we do. I think we do welcome even people who are not members of this meeting coming to the meeting, at least to listen. It is a public meeting like our legislative committee meetings and some others, even though it is not a legislative committee meeting. One other thing, since we had been working on Latinx Heritage Month proclamation in this committee, for those who aren't aware, I wanted to update. The proclamation was presented at the September 19th legislature meeting. Our chair, Shauna Black, read it in English, and then Lourdes Cabrera from the Office of Human Rights read it in Spanish, and Ana Ortiz of No Mas Lágrimas was there to accept it and said some pretty moving words around that as well. So thanks to all of them. Thanks to Rachel and Kate for working on it, and Dominic Recchio and Katrina McCloy for doing a bunch of work getting it translated. And this is like, if you want to watch if you go to the county YouTube channel, the September 19th legislature meeting, it's one of the first things that happens. All right. And with that, I guess one more brief thing, we've been talking about disability access here, and I did have some conversations about that, including with Elise Switzer from the Yang Can Institute, and the more I learn, the more I appreciate how big this issue is and how much work it will be even to do, and it is important to do. The step one was just kind of assessing where we are at as an organization in a lot of realms related to DEI in general and disability in particular. So just tossing at least out, that's where I am. And with that, that might be a good segue into our presentation from Chris. About specific work.
No minutes.
Veronica, just in case we lose quorum for some reason, do you want to do the minutes?
Oh, right. Yes. I don't know what happened there. Can I have a mover for the August minutes? Kate moves. Rachel seconds. Any comments, questions, edits? If no, all in favor, please raise your hand. Great. All opposed? Larry, are you voting? Okay, you're muted.
I'm not voting because I wasn't there.
Taylor, loud.
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Yeah, I'm abstaining.
Maybe we do a roll call vote, Veronica?
Sure. Do you want to do a roll call vote on this now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Roll call. Annie.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Larry.
Abstain.
Lisa.
Yes.
Nick Bennett.
Yes.
Nicholas Ceballos. Wait, how do you pronounce your last name?
I have two last names. It's Arce Ceballos.
Arce Ceballos. Nicholas Arce Ceballos.
Yes.
And how do you vote?
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Kate.
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Thank you.
They have your presentation to share.
Thank you, Taylor.
It's today or
No, I just had it in the packet, but yeah,
All right.
I wasn't gonna put it up.
Okay. Just make sure you're on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for having me and inviting me to come to this meeting. So I'm the director of the Tompkins County Workforce Development Department. So our department recently restructured. So before I came from the Tompkins Workforce Development Board Department, and then we just restructured with the Tompkins County Office of Employment and Training, also known as OET. It's at the Tompkins Workforce New York Career Center. So earlier this month, we became one. So mostly what we do is from the board side, we work on programs and initiatives related to workforce. We serve businesses. We're kind of like the glue that puts everything together, that creates the workforce ecosystem, connects people to providers. And then we have the Career Center, which is the frontline work of serving the participants, connecting them to the right resources, intaking them, seeing where their career pathway may lead them. We serve adults, dislocated workers, youth, and we're really looking to serve anyone throughout Tompkins County because we really feel people just need that extra support to get going. And that's like what really drives our work, is just create opportunities for all of us in this area so it can help families and then ultimately help the county in general and our business. Personally, I'm excited about this program I'm going to talk about, the New York Systems Change and Inclusive Opportunities Network, because it serves those with disabilities and trying to get them involved with the workforce. My aunt has multiple disabilities, so basically like my grandma, I guess, growing up, she had several disabilities, like I said, and I kind of like understand, I don't understand it fully, but like when we would do stuff, you know, she would get like different faces at her and, you know, different attitudes from workers when we're at the restaurant. And, you know, sometimes people aren't holding the doors open for her. And it's like, she clearly needs help with the door being held open. And obviously I would try too, but, you know, a lot of times doorways and access points are really weird with that. So I kind of like take a lot of that stuff personally because, you know, people just want to be treated equally and with dignity. And we should really be there to support them. And yeah, even like this past winter, we like to go to the park a lot, and her wheelchair actually ran out of battery, and then we happened to get stuck in a snowbank. So figuring out how to get out of there, like lifting up a heavy wheelchair, and you know, trying to get help, and you know, some roadways aren't shoveled or sidewalks. So I kind of have that perspective from that point. And then I used to be a special education teacher for 3 years on the south side of Chicago. So serving students with varying disabilities. It was at an all-boys charter school. And a lot of times young Black men are misdiagnosed, but there are certainly those who did have those issues. So I have that perspective also of the stigma they felt just because they were a special education student or a diverse learner. You can change the language what you want. But helping them navigate through that is also like, what I carry in my heart too. And through my work, I try to make sure that people are aware of, like, you know, we have all different kinds of abilities and things like that. It's not like any of us are perfect. So that's personally what drives me in this work and why I'm really excited about this program. But when looking at workforce, really, this is an untapped market of talent that's not really being looked at. A lot of times people with disabilities aren't involved in the market, or there's low labor participation rates. So really what New York State Department of Labor came up with was the New York Systems Change and Inclusive Opportunities Network. And really the goal of that is to help improve employment outcomes for individuals ages 18 and older, just so they can be on the right career pathway. Along with this, the program's also meant to kind of help build a network of providers, streamline the whole system, and I'll get more into that part. But really, there's been some iteration of this program over the past 20 years. It's been called different things, but this is something that came and go, like it disappeared for a year or so, and then it came back. But this iteration of it started in January of 2022, and the pilot, his goal is to assist and train 45,000 people with disabilities across New York State. Currently, as of April 2023, 27 local workforce boards are participating. So I'll explain to you what a workforce board is, because not a lot of people really know what that is. So basically, workforce boards are an act of Congress. We have these federal dollars, and they're meant to serve participants, so adults, youth, dislocated workers. That money is meant to provide supportive services, help cover their tuition, if they want to go to TC3, TSC BOCES, if they need help with gas, getting from point A to point B, just different services are available to them. But it's kind of like, how do you kind of distribute that money all across the country, and how do you oversee it? So basically in New York State, there's 33 different workforce boards. And in Tompkins County, we're a standalone county. So our board is just Tompkins County. Below us, Broome and Tioga, that's another workforce board. Monroe County and Rochester, that's one workforce board. But there's other areas in the state where there's multiple counties involved, like 3 or 4, things like that. So New York State has what is called a Disability Resource Coordinator, also known as DRC. And that person is in that area. And they're kind of driving the mission of like what I just said, of creating those opportunities for people and streamlining the system, making sure services are available to people. So really supporting and expanding collaboration and partnership. So we have a DRC, her name's Cassidy Stanley. And my goal today is to kind of just give you an overview of this program and what it's about. And hopefully we can be invited again for a future meeting, and Cassie could join us and we could like kind of get at a deeper level of learning more about the frontline work she does, because I'm not her, I'm not the DRC coordinator. She has a lot more experience with it and what's really going on at the ground level. And she's very enthusiastic about her work and has been great. So that's really where we're at with it. This program will end in 2026, and we've been kind of tasked with coming up with a sustainability plan and how can you fund it and different things like that. So that's like part of our duties, is to figure that out. And it's really hard to find money to sustain that position. If I go out to like a foundation or somewhere, they're like, well, you're a county government, you're a government, like you have money, like why are you asking us? We'd rather give it to a nonprofit. And then there's like, you can seek grants and things like that, but you can only get so much money from a grant. And like I said, there's 33 workforce boards across the country. And a lot of times we have a lot of trouble competing with larger cities like Rochester and Syracuse and Buffalo, getting grants and bringing money into the area. So obviously we're exhausting everything that we can, looking at where we can find that money to help support this. But that's definitely a huge challenge, because I've been talking to people in Rochester and Syracuse, and they're even having trouble finding ways to help sustain this position. So a thought that came to mind is that we can talk to the legislator and the county and different committees and just make them aware of what's going on and the work being done. And hopefully, like, in the future, this is something that the county could support at our career center. But I'll go over like what the DRC, for this, obviously this is by no means comprehensive, but what the DRC does is they provide consultation with employers on reasonable accommodations. They identify community resources targeted at people with disabilities. They bring the resources of the Career Center to community events. They coordinate public workshops on disclosure, reasonable accommodations, work incentives, and job seekers' rights and responsibilities. They do outreach to in-school and out-of-school youth with disabilities. They provide guidance on SSI and SSDI work incentive programs. And then there's also disability benefits counseling services. So you can really think of it as really a career navigator for people, because a lot of this stuff, there's like complex policy. It's very confusing to navigate the whole system. So that person really is, like I said, with workforce, I'm the glue that's kind of connecting everything together. This person is really connecting everything at the disability resources level, along with complementing the workforce part to it also, because like I mentioned, they're interacting with business, providers, participants that come to the Career Center that may need the services. So that's basically what it does. There's a brochure that I shared. And that kind of provides a similar overview of what I mentioned, and it describes the work that Cassidy does. So that's all in the packet. And shout out to Nick Bennett. Nick Bennett used to be the communication specialist at the Office of Employment Training, the former Office of Employment Training. And we're very proud of this brochure that was made, because it was made in collaboration with Cassidy, and Nick did a really good job at communicating the message of the program, making it accessible for all. And we're really excited that brochure can kind of be passed along throughout the community, left at different locations just so people can see it. They have the contact info. I don't know, Nick, if you want to talk more about the brochure and the process involved with that and the difference you saw, because I know you did a lot of ground level work. Like Nick was at events also with Cassidy and things like that to provide another lens.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was really fun to create the brochure, but it was also very challenging. So one of the elements to it that Cassidy, the DRC, brought up is that many folks use digital readers or assistive technology to be able to read both digital content and paper content, right? Printed content. And I had never in my communications, like creative work, I'd never really done much beyond like alternative text, alt text and images. And so I did like an hour and a half training on accessibility in Adobe. It was Acrobat, in Adobe Acrobat, and I set the brochure up so that it can be readable on multiple kinds of like digital readers, and it's almost 100% readable on devices for the printed version as well. We didn't have any to test it in the office, but we did send it out to some of the DRC's disability resource coordinators in other counties, particularly I think one of like the main coordinators or directors, and they did test it and said it was mostly there, but some of the
I think it's all of them.
They're all frozen now.
Every single one of them.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Some are back.
I can still hear you in the room, but Nick looks frozen.
Yeah, I think it's just Nick.
So I don't know. Lisa, are you frozen or just very still?
She's still frozen.
uh-oh, it's reconnected.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there we go.
was that
Sure,
I
there's
do
some
that?
easier.
You broke Zoom.
You might have to restart.
my wisdom.
We're working on the technical stuff right here for a second, folks.
Because the mic drop.
Everything is still live. Go ahead.
Nick, you just said that you sent it to one of the main I think DRC folks or organizations, and they said almost everything was readable, and then you froze.
Okay, yes, great. So, and I don't have, so I'll say I don't have like an educational background in the technical creation of like really just this hour and a half training that I did on YouTube was enough to get me almost 100% with the accessibility for reader software and devices on this. And of course, you know, I will always think, oh, but it's not quite 100%. It's like 95% there. But it's a big step that many content creators aren't thinking about, especially when it comes to like the paper brochures themselves. I didn't know that there were devices and programs that can be used to translate and read like a paper brochure for folks who need that support. And so it was really cool to be able to work on the creation of it.
Thank you for sharing, Nick. Really appreciate that and all the work you did for the program. We definitely see the difference. So basically we've had 107 total people served, and 26 of them entered unsubsidized employment. So that's since 2022. So we're very excited about those numbers. They're really good because we're also a smaller county. So the New York State Department of Labor was very excited about that. And yeah, really to summarize, I just really am here to ask for your support as we go towards this in the future. I know it's only 2023, but it's about to be 2024. And before you know, it's going to be the end of 2026. And a lot of the work that we're doing now is like this brochure and these numbers that I talked about and the people served and the network that the DRC has created is there because we have this role. And it's not something that we can sustain like if this position disappeared and we lost funding, it's just like not possible to really do that because it's more than a full-time job really. And I know that the workforce board also has different committees. So we have the services to individuals with disabilities. And I know Annie Corman was invited to the event, and our DRC was also there, but that the DRC also helps support that committee. And I did you feel like that was a very useful committee, a very good network of leaders and everything?
Yeah, I did. So I'm happy to have, some of the information be shared here, because I think there's, I mean, I'm not sure what the next steps are, but one of my thoughts was, hey, what are we doing here at the county? And I'm not saying we have to get into that now, but that was just one of my thoughts. Like, what are we doing here? Can I always like to look at our own side of the street first, and can we improve things? And of course, can we improve things for folks, who are looking to get employed or are employed, throughout the county.
Yeah, and that's what really the dream is like this. We have a network in workforce and disability services that if you need services for something or expertise, it's like, I know that person over there, like you should talk to them. Or have you heard of this organization? Why don't you go check this out? Or I can e-connect you. I can through an email and things like that, and we can help serve you. And this position also helps kind of just build that infrastructure. And we're also beginning to further engage with business too. And this is a pilot program, so a lot of this stuff is hard to imagine, but we're getting closer and closer to that. So I just really appreciate everyone but letting me talk and share more about this program. And we look forward to talking in the future also.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. Does anyone have questions, comments, thoughts?
Larry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to blank out for a second. So some people on the call who haven't met me may not be able to tell, but I use a wheelchair, and I have been doing disability advocacy for a long time. I'm familiar with various iterations of the disability resource coordinator at the workforce. I know Cassidy, I wasn't aware that she was in, or I don't think I was aware she was in that position. I was wondering, I'm sorry, can you say your name again? I know the guy.
Yeah, my name is Christopher Spahn. You can call me Chris. Yeah, and you can feel free to reach out to me. We can talk more. I'm looking to collaborate too.
So two things. One, I think I'll be talking to Dominic Recchio, who's the communications person for the county, about disability access to forms. It's something that I hadn't thought about, which is annoying to me. But also I was wondering, I assume that you have met with or know the people at the Finger Lakes Independence Center.
Yeah, they're in here.
Yeah. So they're on that committee that we have actually.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And lastly, I think it would be great for as long as the pilot project is going on, that either you or Cassidy be invited to regularly attend this meeting, because employment of people with disabilities is a thing that the county is not particularly good at. And that's not a criticism of the county, like all other counties are so much better. But the more heads we have around the table that are thinking about that, the better.
Oh, no, I agree completely. Thank you for all those comments. And I'll definitely reach out to Cassidy. And I know that she's very enthusiastic about the work. And no, I mean, it's no criticism, if you have any comments and everything. And I think it's unacceptable in general, how the world is, and that's where we're in. So, but hopefully we can make it better here and be a good example for other areas. And hopefully we can be a model going forward for other counties and hopefully others, gets bigger, it spreads. So yeah, I'm excited to work with you.
Do you have a sense of the 27 people who have been gotten independent employment? That's a pretty impressive number. I wasn't talking about the workforce when I say we're not doing a very good job. I was talking about the county actually hiring people who are who identify as people with disabilities, because of course there are a huge number of people who might not identify. Do you know, of the 27 people, do you have a sense of what kinds of jobs they got?
So I can't fully comment on all that information, but I can look into it more and share a follow-up with you about that, with that information for sure.
Because it'd be great to know, like,
yeah, definitely,
the variety of jobs we're connecting people with.
So what I'll do is I'll confirm everything, and then I'll follow up with you, and then at a future meeting, then I can report out on how that looks also, because I don't want to miss anything.
Again, I think it would be really great if either you or Cassidy or somebody else from the workforce were regularly attending, especially since you're doing such a great job getting people jobs.
Yeah, definitely.
I think if committee members are up for the Chris and Cassidy coming back together, that's either next meeting or some soon future meeting. Well, actually, first, how are folks feeling about that? Is that something you'd want, not want? I see all neutrals to positives. So then, yeah, Chris, if we have questions that you can't answer right now, I think it'd be great if you just write them, note them down, and
yeah, I got them
in the future.
Veronica, I was just wondering, we don't have to know right now, but I know Chris had mentioned that Cassidy could possibly come back and do a presentation, or is that what you were offering? Did I hear you right? Or just attend?
Yeah, no. So I still have to actually talk with Cassidy more about how that would look, and see how her schedule looks. But it would be more like an opportunity for me to follow up on some of the questions that we had. And then if you had any questions for her, more of like an organic conversation, okay. Nothing like formal where we're going to be going PowerPoint by PowerPoint. But I think a lot of times, a lot of questions just come up through the conversation, because we have all different perspectives. So that's the thought. But obviously we have to look at schedules and things like that.
Other folks have questions?
I'll just mention too, if folks recall a few months ago now, the Disability Resource or Disability Employment Summit that I had discussed, that was actually in development with Cassidy. So I had worked pretty hand in hand with her in workforce, and with Chris as well. We were kind of the three of us very much spearheading that. And so, there have been a number of these events and initiatives brought about from the work of the pilot project, and just kind of mentioning that because Chris, you weren't here for this, but I had brought the summit topic up quite a while back, and so many of the folks here being able to put those pieces together, that this is the person, Chris and Cassidy are the folks who were really, really integral in that, the planning of that event. And if y'all remember too, we did have a fairly successful specifically developmental disability employment and resource fair. I'm trying to remember the month, maybe June, July. And that was also part of this initiative. So yeah, they just do really, really great work.
Awesome. Thanks for linking that back for us, Nick. Others? I wrote down 7 questions, but I won't ask them all. A quick couple I have. One is where do you or the Disability Resource Coordinator advertise your services most, like with the brochure or otherwise?
Yeah, so there's a brochure, the website. There's a lot of events that the DRC attends, job fairs, different community events. The brochures passed around at different community locations. I'm sure Nick, our former communication specialist here, did I miss anything else with the outreach? I know there's social media.
The most fun thing that we would do, and honestly, the like meeting people where they're at concept of Cassidy and I would take bags of brochures, the specific DRC brochure, as well as we would gather some cards and pamphlets from some of our other like services and take them to various places like some of the shelters and to whole health or to doctors' offices and community centers. Like we would actually we try to go to every municipality's like community center. And so I remember one day we got to Brooktondale, and then we did Freeville, and then Dryden, and we were kind of trying to hit every single one to really bring these to the rural communities, to areas where folks maybe don't have access to like at a shelter, perhaps, where folks maybe don't have access to their computers or a device, right? Having that paper brochure is really fabulous.
Awesome. Another question, you mentioned 26 people finding unsubsidized employment, I think. What does subsidized employment look like?
So they're like independently, like on their own. So the other ways is, that's the unsubsidized is like they're independent and they're on their own. They don't need to rely on different services and things like that. So that's how it kind of looks, big picture.
But what would subsidized, like what would employment that's not that?
So there's like different government programs where they qualify for services. And so that's kind of like what it's getting at with that stat number.
Okay. And last question I'll ask, so feel free to save this for later, is how does the work you do connect to the county's own workforce? As in like, and this is Larry kind of brought this up, but I feel like you're in an interesting position, or your whole department doing work to support employment of others by others, not like, people getting jobs with other places that are not the county, but also you work for an organization that employs many people, the vast majority of which are not in your department. And how do you think about that relationship or work within that relationship? Or is this something to come back to later?
I think I got all that, but if I'm off, you can tell me. I would view like the Tompkins County, although we're part of I work for Tompkins County, I could view that as also as like an organization or a business that would be serving. So if there's like input on like what Annie was saying, I can provide that. We can provide that, or we can connect people with y'all with the right people to do that training and stuff, because we have our committee, and then the DRC is very well connected with all leadership in different organizations. So that would be my thought of how that would look to provide support to the county.
I think that makes sense. Thank you. All right, last call for questions, comments for Chris. Okay, thank you so much, Chris. This was helpful, and I look forward to more of this conversation.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. Next, I'm looking at the wrong paper, but I think next we had update on the Strength and Diversity Award. So, as you may recall, this is the Leslie McBean Claiborne Strength and Diversity Award. The namesake couldn't be with us today, though she is a member of the committee, for those who don't know. We did, or rather Dominic did, put out a press release, and I think maybe Lisa sent an email to county staff about this some time ago, asking for nominations. There's an online form. We set a deadline of November 13th for people to submit nominations. We also made a paper form that I know Dominic got distributed to all the libraries. So that is good. Actually, I have not checked super recently. I haven't checked today, but somewhat recently there were only 3 nominations, which is cool, but they all came in pretty quickly. So I think, and I think Rachel and I think, correct me if I'm misrepresenting, that we need to like re-up the publicity basically now. So what I am hoping to get from you all is an outline of a plan for publicizing this and some action steps that, let's say half the committee members could take on in some direction or another to get this word out. And I mean, some things I'm thinking we could do another press release. Sharing about this on social media is helpful to reach a whole set of people. If there's like a thing that's easily shareable, people love graphics. I don't know how to make graphics. I don't want to ask Dominic to do every single thing. Also, maybe making flyers to go into the libraries. I admit I haven't checked like how, like, do they simply just have a stack of the forms that someone would have to go proactively look for, or is it advertised? Anyway, so I welcome your thoughts, either ideas, points in direction, or volunteering to be like, I can do this thing. Rachel.
So I just wanted to say there is a deputy cabinet meeting happening monthly again now. And I couldn't attend the last one, but I reached out to Megan to share that with the deputy cabinet too. Both the strength and diversity and the values. So that was pushed out to deputies earlier this week. I think it was Monday. And I'm definitely willing to share that on, LinkedIn, Facebook, just for, try to get a little more attention from the people that I'm connected to in the area.
Awesome. Rachel, what would you need in order to be able to share on LinkedIn and Facebook?
I think I can just use the link. And then, I can say that we have paper forms available if they're needed, and to let me know if they need them. And I already have the link, so I wouldn't need anything.
Okay, so I'll do this right now, my part.
Other thoughts? Lisa.
Wondering whether it might be more effective to target our outreach to community organizations or people that we know that may be operating in this space. I don't know, I'm thinking nonprofits, Human Services Coalition, city. I don't want to limit it, but I'm also thinking, if we have if we ourselves know of other organizations that we think are doing great things or working either, with people who are doing great things or with volunteers, that we reach out directly and solicit from them. solicit nominations.
That makes sense. Thank you. I found that, I guess when I'm in a position of like someone's announced a thing and I want to pass it on to someone else, it's easier if there's like some very easy shareable thing. So I think, I mean, of course we have the link to the form. I think there's also a link to the, I don't know if it was a press release. I forget. I think there's a link to the county email blast that went out about this. I know like there's other events when people make like a graphic, like just an image or maybe a PDF. I don't know, like the kind of thing people post on Instagram, which I don't really use. But those can also be easily shareable because you can just like pop that into like text, pop it on Facebook. You can attach it to an email and it like has all the things right there. So if anyone wants to volunteer or volunteer to someone to make such a thing, that would be awesome. Larry.
The Zoom has told me that the host muted my camera and I can't unmute my camera.
We're working on that.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Larry.
No, his camera, he can do his camera. Yeah.
They're saying from here, you should be able to.
No, it says unable to start. Unable to start video. You can't start because the host has stopped it.
Huh. Want to just put S to start video, see if that.
Okay, got it.
Oh,
Good.
right, good. Sorry about that, Larry.
No, I didn't.
Did you have something on the award publicity topic, or was it just that?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of listservs, so I'd suggested people are part of listservs. I think that's what Lisa is suggesting. If there are people we know who are particularly interested in this kind of thing, that we could share information with them. Like I'm thinking of 2 or 3 ways I could do that. And we almost belong to all kinds of listservs and groups.
Yeah, we may be the best ambassadors for it, this group here, this core group. And also the first time that it went out, was there a deadline?
Yes, November 13th.
Oh, sorry, say what it was again, November
13.
Oh, okay.
So in like a 2.5 weeks from now.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd meant to reach out to our Human Rights Commission, which I haven't yet, but they would be interested in sharing it and might have the capacity to make a graphic, but I have not checked. I can't sign other people up for that. Is anyone here willing to, well, I guess 2 questions. Is anyone here willing to work on designing either some like short copy paste text or a graphic that can be shared easily? Because once that exists, I think it could be a lot like easier for all of us in this group to share it out. And my second question is maybe for Lisa, does it have to conform to county branding in some way?
I was thinking I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone by volunteering for this and enlisting the help of my next door neighbor office mate, Dominic, to help. And that way we'd be assured that it would be conforming with county branding.
I mean, if he's up for it, that'd be fantastic.
So to be clear, we're looking for because he can do this in under 5 minutes, I'm pretty sure. we're just looking for the blurbs or the taken from the actual release that went out and creating shareable blurbs, graphics.
I think I'm open to ideas, but maybe like text that's just blurbs from the original release and links, but maybe starting, I mean, I guess this would be easy, starting with a like reminder, nominations due on November 13th on, I don't know if it's I don't remember if it's a Monday, whatever it is.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
But that, and also like an image, like a social media style image that has, that says something like, I don't know, like know someone who shows strength and diversity, nominate them for the blah, blah, blah award, like nominate a person or organization, and then like, I don't know, a link or QR code, deadline, maybe paper forms available, whatever is the key, like core information.
When you say image, do you mean that information in a PDF versus a graphic? Like you're not looking for some sort of graphic symbol or anything. You're just looking for all of this in an image that would be shareable on social media.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Got it. Thank you.
May I jump in for a moment? My former communications specialist brain is tingling here, and I'm definitely some sort of visual. I wonder if Leslyn would be opposed to being sort of the poster child. I mean, she's the namesake, but I'm imagining like a picture of her with strength and diversity, and that's not necessarily me volunteering, but just in terms of, Veronica had a great point with like sharing on Instagram, sharing text on Instagram, which is one of the top like shareable social medias that I would push this on. Text is not solely shareable, so we would want a visual of some sort, and something simple like a picture of Leslyn that just says strength and diversity, perhaps. And I apologize to not volunteer. It is midterms and quite overwhelmed with my classes. Otherwise I would, but not on the short deadline.
Very reasonable. I love that idea, and we'll shoot a message to Leslyn asking how she feels about that. Kate, I saw your hand up. Do you have something?
I was just going to ask if we were doing just individual or an agency, like either or, and would it make sense to do a person and an organization? Like, do you want, I mean, or does it not matter? And then I thought it probably doesn't matter, so I put my hand down.
I think so. The award, like the criteria and form, definitely say you can nominate like a person or an organization or a group or a business. I don't know. It lists 4 things. It's supposed to be pretty all encompassing.
Okay.
I think before we talked about just giving one award per year and not particularly categorizing it by what type of recipient.
Okay, thank you.
But I thought that does raise a good point that like I might have been using language that makes it sound like we're just looking for an individual, but this does not have to be an individual.
Yeah, and I think that's something we can revisit too. Like if we got a ton of nominations and there were lots of individuals and organizations, eventually maybe we would want one for each category. But I think starting out and with how little we've received so far, keeping it to one makes more sense right now.
That makes sense. Okay, so I am hearing Rachel's up for sharing this on social and professional social media. So am I. Lisa is going to acquire a shareable text and graphic with the help of her trustee office. I will ask Leslyn if her face can be part of it. And once we have easily shareable things, I will blast those places, send to Human Rights Commission and wherever I can think of. Are other folks on this call up for sharing the shareables once we get them? Awesome. Love it. Thank you. Anything else on this topic? If no, then can we move to Lisa? Are you ready to give a status check-in on the strategic plan?
Sure. So I'm not sure where, I'll start from the beginning because many of you may not be aware. The county has never embarked upon a strategic operations plan before, and we have a grant to help us do that this year. So we are well underway in working with a consultant and creating a strategic operations plan for the county. As this was being put together or planned for over a year ago, we made the decision and the commitment that we wanted to center equity as a foundation in the planning process, so as not to have a strategic plan for DEI and then a strategic operations plan. Because prior to that, our former Chief Equity and Diversity Officer was embarking on a strategic plan for DEI. But when we had this plan, the strategic operations plan, we just thought it would be better to have them intertwined. So that's what we're doing. We're working with a consultant. The consultant is called Barry Dunn, and they have been guiding the process. They have also been they have a DEI consultant that they've been working with, and we have been quick to bring Charlene, our new Chief Equity Diversity Officer, in on the planning process to help along with that. We there's been an employee engagement or employee survey and some focus groups, a survey of community members, some focus time with legislators, and I believe it's in 1 week, next week, they're going to be having a brainstorming session with the legislature, making everybody aware of the findings to date from the community surveys and employee surveys and so forth. And then we're also going to be, that process will continue on with department heads based on the kind of mission, vision, and values and goals that are set by legislators. So as part of that, and something that Charlene has been working on, is looking at building an equity framework, adopting an equity framework for the organization, which includes, as part of that, an equity lens by which to guide or filter the decision-making process. And all of that would be, it's not like that is going to suddenly be, foisted upon us. It would be, that would be, I think, something that we would be looking to build out as a recommendation in the plan for the next several years. And again, the strategic operations plan will help guide our organizational decision-making and kind of priorities for the next 5 or so years, looking at what are priorities in the community, how we can best meet them and how we operationally in the county can equip ourselves to do that. So that's the strategic operations plan. It is so far a lot of it has been a bit behind the scenes, but it will be as we are completing it and rolling it out, and there'll be an iterative process so that staff, departments, and the community will be able to see and comment on the first draft of the plan and so forth. But it's been pretty time and labor intensive, and but I think it will serve us well as an organization. So you mentioned that, Veronica, and also in the context of climate survey. So knowing that we were going to be involved in this kind of labor intensive process for this period of time, we had made the decision to push back the timing in which we would do another employee climate survey, because again, that is also a time and labor intensive process, and we want to make sure that we're doing it right. And so and likely the same individuals who are engaged in the strategic planning process would be engaged in the climate survey implementation. So I'm expecting that we will be finalizing the strategic planning process in 2020, the end of 2023, middle of 2024. And we would look at planning for our next climate survey at the earliest in 2025. So just wanted to kind of lay all that out for everybody. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Rachel and then Larry.
So you mentioned there's going to be a meeting soon with the legislature to give an update. Is that going to be like a recorded meeting, or is that behind the scenes meeting?
It's a meeting next week where they are going to be engaging in a process, kind of a brainstorming process about the planning, drafting the plan itself. By its nature, it's going to be, because all of them are going to be gathered together, a public meeting, but I don't think we're going to be, broadcasting it like, it's open to the public, but it's not. Yeah. So public can attend any public meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So I just had a question about the climate survey. The climate survey is sort of integral to the work of the Workforce Diversity Inclusion Committee, and our vision for, and again, I've been away for a long time, so things may have shifted. So what I'm wondering, I don't have a problem postponing it. 2025 seems a little far out to do it. I'm wondering, when was the last time we did a survey?
2018.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty, I just want to say it was, the climate survey, if people remember their history, Dina and Kit and Lisa and I and a couple other people were really involved in creating from scratch the first climate survey, and we learned a lot. And we have a tool that we finally had a tool that I feel like was useful. And went through a few iterations. So I'm a little concerned, especially since you just said that the last one was done in 2018. So I just raised that.
I hear you, Larry, and having been involved in all of the surveys that we've done, and since starting with that one that we did from scratch, I do think that it's been really helpful and important, the information that we've gleaned from it. And the last two in 2015 and 2018, we used the same survey instrument. We were able to look at trends. We were able to implement a lot of different, I mean, we've done a lot. I think we've really gotten our money's worth out of the 2018 survey with everything that we have done as a follow-up to it. So I think given all of the resources that we have that we have to marshal to do it the way that we want to do it, we're just not going to have the bandwidth, unfortunately, until that time, because we don't want to just do it and not do all of the components that need to be done to make it successful.
Sounds good to me. It's just that the survey was such an important part of whatever plans and whatever processes we put into place. I mean, I think the feedback from the plan, from the survey, probably led to a bunch of this staff working groups that are happening like Jedi, because the staff wanted to feel a more direct connection to the work of doing this work. That the WDIC itself was a good thing, but there really needed to be more of a staff. But I'm not gonna put my foot down and say just raising that it's a long time between 2018 and 2025.
Yeah, I agree.
I just want to butt in briefly to welcome Charlene Holmes, who came in the middle of this. Hello. I'd love to give you a proper introduction after we wrap this topic discussing strategic plan and climate survey updates and futures. Rachel.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I shared that same concern, Larry. And I was thinking over the weekend about that, and was thinking about the conversations that I had with the people from Barry Dunn who are working on the strategic plan, and they ask a lot of similar questions of employees that were on the survey. And so that gave me a little bit of relief, and with Charlene working with them and with them having a consultant that they're using as well, I'm feeling a lot better about that whatever's going into the strategic plan will be using that information to try to solve the issues that come out of these conversations that they're having with both employees, advisory committees, and with the community. So there's that too.
Great.
Thanks for raising that, Rachel. That with a lot of questions. We're getting a lot in regard to climate and opportunities for improvement on behalf of employees from that.
Kate.
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say, in the couple conversations that I've been involved in, everything Rachel said is true, and I think, and I was surprised, not happily surprised, that I think it garnered some really good conversation even in the couple sessions that I was in. So I think that's an excellent point. So just in agreement.
Awesome. One concern that, I'm sorry if I missed this, but I know, like, Rachel, you'd raised repeatedly in the past, was communication to the county staff about, like, when the next climate survey will be and why it's being so long. And it may be that many or most of the employees are like finding the same things you are from going through the strategic plan process. But I wonder I guess, is that the case, or does some additional message need to be delivered? This is kind of a question for all the staff here, because I don't know as well.
I mean, I think that messaging couldn't hurt, just to let people know, like, hey, we know it's been a while and there's a reason for it. And these are the reasons. I don't want to open a can of worms with people either, but at the same time, I don't want people like wondering like, hey, why aren't we having another climate survey?
Something I could mention the next time we do an employee town hall. I'm not sure to what extent there are a lot of new employees that may not even know that some have been done in the past. Some may have crossed some people's minds, but I'm not sure how many people are, sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for the next time they can be surveyed. I'm not sure. I don't want to presume anything.
Reasonable. I love the idea of raising it in an employee town hall. That seems a good way to say it publicly, but not make it a whole big thing.
I can talk about it in the context of our strategic planning process.
Veronica?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
So I like the idea of being fully transparent. I mean, that's where my head's going we don't know if people are at the edge of their seat, but even if there's a few people who are thinking, well, geez, we had, a survey X amount of years ago and geez, they're not doing anything. I think it's always helpful to, whether, we do something or Lisa does something at the next staff town hall. I also like the idea of if there's an update going out to employees to put it in there, because that's a place where people then, it's in writing, they can go back and look, oh, Lisa said last year, that it's going to be in X amount of years. Like, here's a plan. We're working on this, and then we're working on this the next year or two, and then here's the timeline. So that people, again, I like full transparency, so people know.
Thanks, Annie. Nick.
Yeah, this is very, very familiar. Ithaca College is currently working on their climate survey, and I was looking up to check because the mention of 2018, Ithaca College hasn't done one since 2016. And the goal was to have done one in 2020, but with the pandemic, that was pushed back, right? And I just agreeing with Veronica and Annie, transparency of like, we want this done right. And so in order to have it done well and done right, the best choice is to push it back until we're, in the best place to be able to offer it again. But just kind of putting that out there, that some perspective as well, that other institutions, yes, higher ed is very different from local government in some ways, but we are also very behind. So yeah, just some perspective.
Thanks, Nick. Higher ed is very different from local government. Any other thoughts, questions, comments on this topic? If no, then let's move along. Actually, Charlene, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself? You're welcome to say no. I love your Harmony Malone background, by the way.
Thank you. I got it from the gallery. And I love it. I fell in love with it. I can't wait to see it in person. So right now it's just virtual. Anyway, hi everyone. My name is Charlene Holmes. I am the newly hired Chief Equity and Diversity Officer for Tompkins County. Super happy to be here with you. Looking forward to engaging in thought partnership with you and getting some fruits for our labor, right? And I'm very open to having conversations around, offline around, different equity ideas and initiatives that you might think would be something that we should consider as a county. So please don't hesitate to do that. I never know what to say in these spaces, so forgive me. And then we're being recorded, so that's even more nerve-wracking. So I'll stop here. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I was late, but I'm here now.
We're very happy to have you. Awesome. Welcome. All right. Moving along then to, again, I put the agenda away, but Native American Heritage Month and land acknowledgements. These are kind of two different topics that are related, and both anticipating just a discussion. So November is Native American Heritage Month. In the past, I don't know about every year, but in some years, the county has delivered a proclamation about this, and I think that's all. We, some of us have had some discussion about maybe trying to celebrate it with some sort of small event or something a little bit more. But no planning has happened. There've been a couple of informal conversations with some of like local Indigenous leaders. What I am, I guess, looking for from the committee right now as well, I welcome anything, but what I'm looking for is some consensus direction on what do we want to pursue doing for Native American Heritage Month. It might be just a proclamation, extremely similar to the most recent one. It could be nothing. It could be like, I'm not sure, but we should talk to like XYZ people. Any of your thoughts, I welcome. And I guess I could mention the land acknowledgement thing now or later. Larry.
So I think we should, at the very least, issue a proclamation. I wonder if we could get with that proclamation, I wonder if somebody from the traditional leadership of the Gayakono could come and give us an update about the struggle over the leadership. And maybe that's just to us rather than in terms of land acknowledgement. As a good white person, I thought, well, that's really cool and wonderful, and we should do it, and we should always acknowledge the land. But somebody in another group I'm part of said that partly the land acknowledgements that that person had seen sort of impart feel to her very performative and acknowledging the and assuaging the conscience of non-Indigenous inhabitants of the land currently. And so whatever my pitch is, if we move to a land acknowledgement, that we make it very clear how the land was taken and some commitment to recognizing that and taking positive steps of redress.
Thanks, Larry. I guess I can comment on the land acknowledgement thing. So I feel like I've heard similar all those sentiments about land acknowledgements, and also speaking as a white settler person myself. The county, I'm not aware that Tompkins County like posts a land acknowledgement anywhere or has one spoken as part of meetings or anything. we have, for instance, in like some proclamations and at least one resolution, I didn't do a super deep dive, have included statements acknowledging that the land of Tompkins County was previously in the land of the Gayacono people who were like forced off of it, did not give it up voluntarily, or other statements to that effect. We've had, I know that like, just in the time I've been on or paying attention to the legislature, a couple of legislators have said something to that effect during a discussion or a privilege of the floor, but there hasn't been a formal process. Some nearby organizations have some kind of official land acknowledgement. Cornell does. I don't have it on hand at the moment. The History Center in Tompkins County has a land acknowledgement on their website that's fairly long, and also, actually, if it's okay, I'd like to just read it. It'll only take a couple minutes, and it kind of addresses Larry's thing at the end. I'm not sure what the URL is, but it's at thehistorycenter.net. And if you just go to home, about us, land acknowledgement, that's what I'm looking at. And they say, we collectively acknowledge that Tompkins County is located on the traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of the Gayacono Nation, generally known as the Cayuga Nation, one of the 6 nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, sometimes referred to as the Iroquois Confederacy. Tompkins County was also home to the native nations adopted by the Gayacono, the Saponi and the Tutelo, Deodehono, who fled to this region in the mid-1700s, escaping colonization by European immigrants farther south. The History Center and all our programs occur on land that was cared for and called home by the Haudenosaunee Confederacy for over 1,000 years, and the indigenous cultures ancestral to the Confederacy for time immemorial. We recognize and continually support the sovereignty of the native nations in this territory and beyond. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm tribal sovereignty and will work to hold the History Center in Tompkins County accountable to Native American peoples and nations. We recognize this to be a living agreement, and much like the George Washington Covenant Belt that was agreed to by representatives of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the United States government in Canandaigua, New York in 1794, the quote chain, unquote, of our friendship needs to be polished regularly to reinforce this community bond. We are grateful to our community partners in the Gayacono and other Haudenosaunee nations for their support of the History Center in Tompkins County and their ongoing collaborations with us as we strive to offer authentic programs and exhibits encompassing the full and true history of this region. And that's the end of their land acknowledgement, but they have some notes below. Saying that they have submitted this land acknowledgement to traditional Gayacono leaders for their consideration and approval. They'll post a final version as soon as it's available. They give some links to resources for how to craft the land acknowledgement and build relationship with the indigenous communities of your area. And then they say, our indigenous collaborators have asked us to note, if you or your organization is not able to commit to the ongoing work of rebuilding relationships with living indigenous communities, a land acknowledgement may not be a recommended process for your organization to pursue at this time. So that's that. Larry.
Also, both the Hangar Theater and the Kitchen Theater have land acknowledgements. I don't know if Cherry Arts does, but I would be surprised if they do. So there are land acknowledgements there.
Yeah, and Cayuga Health System also has a land acknowledgement.
I believe that I've been asking about our land acknowledgement since I got here to a few folks. Did a little bit of research. I don't err along the performative lines. I feel like anything we do will be intentional and it will be done in excellency, and we will do it with centering the individuals that we would like to advocate for and uplift in that moment. And so I'm for the land acknowledgement. I think it's overdue. Clearly, we need it. And it's something that can also go in tandem with, the direction that we're going in terms of creating a countywide equity lens and thinking along the lines of, just being more intentional and outwardly facing about our data and what we're doing related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think that's just a really good start. It's good practice to acknowledge that and to do it in an intentional way. So I'm in full support and ready to take that to the next level if we decide to do so.
Thanks, Charlene. And I said what I was looking for about the Native American Heritage Month, about a land acknowledgement. I think what I'd love to get is a direction from the committee on, do we want to pursue coming up with one, yes or no? Or is there or do we want to answer some particular intermediate question first? We're definitely not going to be writing a land acknowledgement here in this meeting or anything.
Given that I'm new to this space, forgive me if I'm asking a question that everyone knows the answer to, but I think we should discuss what the process would be if we were to adopt a land acknowledgement. Who does it need to go through? What do we need? How do we need to get it approved? Is it at the organizational level or is it at the legislative level? And then what does that look like for us in terms of the steps to take? I think perhaps starting there would provide us with a little bit more clarity as to whether or not, WDIC is the entity to take it on, or do we partner with Jedi or whatever, just thinking more around what that would look like.
That is a great question that I am going to toss to Lisa.
Well, it seems to me like this committee is the place that the vehicle by which it's currently coming up, and then this committee filters in through Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee. It does seem that this would be, and I guess the recommendation coming from this committee is, I guess part of, or if it's organization wide, how do we see that? How does this committee see and recommend that this land acknowledgement be put into use by the organization? Those kinds of questions come to mind. Then that would go from here to Budget, Capital, Personnel, and then to the legislature for full legislature for consideration. But I could see the work of it and the recommendation of it coming up through this committee.
Kate, and then Brittany. I'm taking your presence as a raised hand.
So the thing that sort of comes to me too is in a lot of this, we want to make sure that we're bringing everyone that's included in that conversation to the table. And I'm wondering if there are people who are employed by our organization that have Native American ancestry or have some sort of connection to that would want to be involved in that process. And I just think that that's, we think about BIPOC communities. We want to make sure all perspectives are brought to the table. And I think we need to be careful as a county that we also do that as well, from internal as well as external, not just bringing Native American folks to the table now, but if there's someone that feels strongly about it internally, that we open that up. Much like we did I was part of the values committee, and I just thought that was I really enjoyed having different people from different places that were there and cared about the thing and worked together to create something. So not so much top down, but something that's created from people that it really matters to. I think it resonates better and just sets a better precedent. Just my thought.
I love that and would love to hear how one goes about finding and engaging all those people. Brittany?
I just wanted to pipe in. I heard what Lisa said with anything that this committee recommends, whether it's a resolution, an acknowledgement, proclamation, anything, still needs to be run through the BCP committee. So.
And Brittany, do you want to say anything as also a member of JEDI? Did you have any other insights?
I don't as of yet. It's been a little while since JEDI has met, so I don't feel like I'm prepared enough to speak to that at this point.
Thanks.
We have a reconvening meeting on Friday of this week at 1:30. From there, we'll be able to better articulate the direction we'd like to move in as a internal core equity team. But for now, it'll be very informal because we need to get to know each other again, prioritize again, and ensure that we're on the same page.
Might be a good place to kind of put out some feelers to see if there's anyone in that space, or they could go back and talk to their departments to see if there's anyone who has the ancestry or feels strongly about it, just to kind of get a sense of what the pulse is.
Nick?
Yeah, so I kind of going back to something Kate mentioned and thinking too about the sort of the intention of the land acknowledgement and the purpose for our sake. The proclamation is very, very clear for the month proclamation, but a land acknowledgement, right? I'm also wanting us to maybe consider like the centering of like our local indigenous and native like organizations. Now obviously like the community itself, but like organizations, businesses, entrepreneurs, and I know like I have an Onondaga ancestry, so I'm Haudenosaunee, but I have found like, and having lived in Tompkins County most of my life, apart from like extended family, I have found it very difficult to find those pockets of Haudenosaunee community members in this area specifically. And I mean like Tompkins County. But I like maybe it's more self-serving here, but I think it would be a huge benefit with that intentionality of the land acknowledgement and bringing folks of this community and identity to also centering and focusing on like the accomplishments and the sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. The word that I'm looking for is escaping me. But just the connection that this community has in Tompkins County, and I think amplifying those voices, centering business, organization, entrepreneurship, right? Considering too, like we're workforce diversity, equity, inclusion. And so that really ties in as well, just with our mission as, as what we do in this committee. So I can't tell y'all like the names or organizations and businesses. I don't know. That's part of the problem, is even as somebody with this ancestry, I don't know of a lot of other connections in Tompkins County. And that's such a serious problem. Like I'll have to go outside to like the Iroquois Museum that's like in a totally different county, or folks in Seneca Falls, right? And I feel like we can collectively do better to kind of raise up those voices and center that community.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for bringing that up and sharing your own personal experience. Others? Annie.
Yeah, just wondering if there's, it's just an idea. So if there is some intersection between doing something for the Native American Heritage Month and our exploration of getting more people at the table to talk about a land acknowledgement. I'd say maybe a round table or something. I don't know, just wondering if there's some intersection that helps us with both of those things.
That's a really good idea. Opening up the door for the conversation to just start. Making it super low inertia and like giving us and community members, both internally and externally, an opportunity to talk about what that looks like, right? Like Nick shared his intersection of identity that people may or may not would have known. So I like that idea a lot. Perhaps starting with that event, doing the proclamation, starting the conversation, then letting the conversation move us into the direction of how to pivot into being more intentional around why we would want to do our land acknowledgement and center those experiences. I really like that idea. I think that's spot on. Just in agreement with you.
Awesome. Kate?
Do we know if any other municipalities in Tompkins County have a land acknowledgement?
Some do. Some of the smaller ones do.
Yeah, it might
Village
be
of
worth just.
Trumansburg, I believe. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. It's like it may just be worth asking, like, about that process.
Yeah, that's what I was. Well, if I could chime in, Veronica.
Yes,
that's what I was kind of in hearing off of what Charlene's saying. So what I'm starting to see is, the vision of, say, something at the library or some central place where asking folks, organizations, municipalities or other organizations that have land acknowledgements to come and talk about, their process in that. Other organizations such as the county who were thinking about it, what are the questions we would ask? How would we go about it? And this includes getting people at the table to help guide us and or ask. I'm sorry, not necessarily putting them in the position of guiding us. So I don't mean to put that on any group, but to be there so that we could ask them questions if they were willing to. And if they were willing to help guide us, I'd certainly take the input.
Other thoughts?
I think it's a good idea. And I think too, maybe part of that conversation could also open up, although I think while we're largely in favor of doing a land acknowledgement, we also know that there's a lot of pro and con related to those, and that have been voiced by Native Americans themselves. And so just having some clarifying discussion about that might be helpful.
Yeah, thank you. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like this committee's definitely interested in exploring having a countywide land acknowledgement and starting with just trying to bring interested folks to the table and Native folks to the table, both like employees in the county and folks outside of it, but locally, or at least like very clearly opening up easy access to this metaphorical table. And if people don't want to engage, that's obviously fine. And I've heard Team Jedi named as one place to maybe start pulling folks together, building a space from within the organization. Yeah, does that all sound right so far? For Native American Heritage Month, for this Native American Heritage Month specifically, since it's very soon, am I hearing that we want to do a proclamation? I see small nods. I know Larry had said yes, clearly. And then it sounds like people were interested in connecting like this November 2023 Native American Heritage Month to the like creation of space for a possible land acknowledgement conversation. I'm not sure how that like would or could or should look on a practical level. And just for the tying something to this coming month, I am interested in practical steps. Does anybody have ideas?
Couldn't we put the intent to do that in the proclamation?
I was actually going to suggest that, Kate. There can be a whereas statement that just says that the county intends to do that. Yeah.
I like that. Other thoughts? Would anyone like to take the lead or just participate in writing such a proclamation or editing? Remember, old proclamations exist, and often we've just started there and edited and updated.
I was going to say, I can send the proclamation to the committee members and see if there's any edits that they'd like to make or changes, kind of thing.
That'd be helpful.
Sometimes we've gotten 2 or 3 people to volunteer, to work on editing it.
Anyone here feeling a little bit called to do so?
I don't mind helping to edit.
No.
Gives me an opportunity to get to know the proclamation and things of that nature. So sign me up.
Amazing, thank you.
I can volunteer to edit, just not writing from scratch.
Yes, we won't be writing from scratch.
I second that.
All right, awesome.
I'll send the 2022 version out to everybody tomorrow.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, Brittany. And I'm happy to help edit it. And so Charlene, Nick, and I can start with that version and go from there.
No need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. And just for timing, I think we need to have that done, so ideally by this coming Tuesday.
Yes.
So that it can be on the agenda for the first November legislature meeting.
Yep.
We have a bonus 5th week in October.
So do you want to outline the process then? If Charlene and Nick are working on that, then they would send it to who to review, or maybe you and Rachel or the whole group, or what do you think?
Could it be in a shared document? So then, I mean, I don't know if.
I think in the past, when I helped with edits, we just, I gave them on an individual copy and probably sent to Rachel and Veronica.
I love the idea of having a shared document, though, if anyone wants to make one. I could do that myself, but not during the day tomorrow, because I will be at this conference still and then traveling.
The only issue with that, Veronica, is that Nick isn't a county employee, so we can't do a shared document with him.
Yeah, outside emails.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brittany. I had not thought of that.
Yeah.
As well.
I may be sticking my foot in my mouth saying this in a public recorded meeting, but what if we made a shared document that was outside of the county network, like a Google Doc? Are we not allowed to do that?
We can't do that. You all are more than welcome to, but.
I can also give my notes on an individual digital copy and just send them along, very professor-like.
I can send in a Word document, so track changes can be made.
And if it's easiest, when the three of you, or for however many people are going to be editing, if you do the track changes and then send them back to our office, I know Taylor, Jordan, and I can sit down and see where maybe some similarities are, and then put one version back together and send it to whomever's going to be on that little like subcommittee for this, and just get their blessing before we send it along with the legislature agenda.
I appreciate that. Although this does seem like a lot of work to aggregate employees and non-employees in the digital space, but I will let that lie. We only have 5 minutes left. Other thoughts, comments, offers on Native American Heritage Month coming up right now?
Wondering if you want to have a small subgroup looking at starting to organize some event, or do we, where do you want it? Because otherwise we're not meeting again for 2 months. Do you want to have it like soon or wait till next year?
Are you thinking of like a subgroup of this committee, or trying to gather like a broader group of like Indigenous people and others interested to start a land acknowledgement exploration?
A group to look at. I think we possibly, and I could be wrong, possibly we decided that the first step might be to have an event to gather information, or from the community. And if that is the first step, then do we want to have a few people trying to organize that? But maybe I'm wrong.
Rachel?
I'm just thinking if what would be coming from WDIC is a recommendation that the county have a land acknowledgement or create one, do we just make a motion to make that recommendation, and then that would go to budget capital, and then from there we would put the process together? Or do we recommend the process that we think should be used?
I think we need to sort of speak to more Indigenous people and Indigenous leaders, and at least I don't know, before even making that recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I anticipate, for instance, if we were to move that now and send it to BCP, they would maybe send it right back on to us. So I don't know. Charlene?
I think that the event was the reason why we brought up the event was so that we could engage with those individuals in a non-invasive space. So the event would hold the space for us to engage individuals who are interested in assisting in creating the process. So in tandem with the proclamation, the event would also happen during that month, during the month of Indigenous, Native American heritage. And then we would begin the conversation. So set up the time for more dialogue around next steps. So that would include, the History Center, the municipalities that have their land acknowledgement, the Indigenous folks who live here, things of that, like those people. So I think that's what you were asking, right? Like, do we going to do the event as well with the proclamation during the month? I don't think we came to a consensus yet. And the event could be a small event at a local place with some hors d'oeuvres and conversation, guided conversation, human bingo, and things of that nature. Maybe I'm cheesy, but it doesn't have to be that. Or we could do a small panel discussion. I know that Dr. Clark does that, works with a lot of individuals in the community who could help us put that together.
So what if we go forward with the proclamation like planned, and then some of us can talk offline, like maybe Charlene, Dr. Clark, Annie, me, anyone else who wants, about what an event might look like, and folks to start contacting about that. Kate.
Yeah, just also realistic expectations of November and December. It is holidays, and people we should do, I think, the proclamation, yes, with the intent to do this, but also know that if it goes into the new year, so we can engage the most amount of people, I just think that is something to keep in mind as well. So.
Yeah.
And even in the proclamation, Veronica, it can state that it is the intent of the county to do this land acknowledgement, but not necessarily set a time frame on it. Because like Kate said, you're coming into the holiday season and poor weather and things like that. So you have to accommodate for, or acknowledge that those things could get in the way of someone potentially participating in a focus group like that.
Well, hold on. The proclamation would be saying that it's our intent to bring people together to discuss the possibility of a land acknowledgement, right? We can't just be proclaiming that the county's going to do a land acknowledgement.
No, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else? Yeah, it's 5:01, so let's leave that. Anybody have any updates, announcements, other stuff for the good of WDIC?
So I just wanted to clarify. So we're gonna hold off, or what are we doing about possibly having an event? We're gonna wait?
We're gonna do the discussion on when you might want to have it outside of this committee. Like outside of a committee meeting, because we're run out of committee meeting. Does that make sense?
I think it's the intent to do it, but to move forward with the proclamation first so that it can be acknowledged and then try to organize the event thereafter. That's my understanding. Maybe
Is that clear?
Sorry, I might not. Yeah.
That's how I took it.
And I think a land acknowledgement can happen at any time. I think there's nothing that says that it needs to be Indigenous Peoples Month or Indigenous Peoples Day. I think that could even be included in the intent that we're doing our research and looking into all of the steps and everything that we need to be able to do this properly and well and respectfully, but that it doesn't have to be solely that Heritage Month.
Annie, is any of this answering your question? Okay, I don't
Sure.
know if I understand.
Kind of. So if, I'm just wondering if we need, permission or consensus from this group, if you're suggesting, it sounds like you, me, Rachel, Ken, and Charlene get together to talk about an event? Is that what you're suggesting? No?
Yes, that's my suggestion.
Yes?
To vote on this? Or-
If it's something that's, yeah, I don't think we need to, I'm getting, okay. I'm hearing from the clerks that consensus is good enough, and it sounds like we've had the consensus that we'll explore this. Okay, I'm good then.
All right, great. Anything else anyone wants to bring up? If no, then let us adjourn. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Thank you.
Stop recording. Yeah, and stream.